The internet itself is an egregore that feeds on our attention, and I find it important to remember that it mostly takes from you, whichever community you are part of. Internet fasts are so important in my opinion. This was a comment I got under my previous video describing the internet as the largest community, letting individuals share ideas beyond physical limitations. Finding the comment interesting, I decided to discuss some concepts from creative and esoteric perspective. And since it touches on a few, I'll break that down into multiple sections. Egregores. For those new to my work, the term egregore comes from the Greek egregorus, meaning wakeful or watcher. According to Mark Stavish, that is a home or conduit for specific psychic intelligence of a non-human nature connecting the invisible dimensions with the material world. Also, an autonomous psychic entity composed of and influencing the thoughts of a group of people. According to French Martinist and Freemason Robert Abmelin, an egregore is a force generated by powerful spiritual currents and subsequently nourished at regular intervals in harmony with the cosmos or by gathering of entities united by a shared characteristic. Unquote. Egregores are regarded as the power source behind different communities, such as the so-called group minds governing states, nations, industries, cultures, etc. Prophecy. As many of my viewers know, in 1904, an eccentric philosopher proclaimed himself a prophet of a new age. He described the universe and consequently life and society as an interaction between two principles. The first is a feminine principle, representing the totality of potential and experiences, both manifest and unmanifest. The second is a masculine one, which is the single point of perception that unites with and experiences those potentialities. For literary convenience, the prophet attributed the first to the Egyptian star goddess Nuit, representing space, the all, and basically everything and anything. The second he called Hadith, which translates into he goes, revealing his masculine active nature corresponding to the life force Kia in Kabbalah. Stars. Emerging in the 1910s, Adlerian or individual psychology views the individual as society's most basic unit or monad. Similarly, Adlerians say everyone is part of the largest society, transcending local cultures and communities and including all inanimate and animate objects. According to the prophecy, humanity has entered a stage where everyone has the potential to be a bona fide star in Nuit's body. That is an equally significant part of divinity, which now is no longer viewed as an external factor, but expressed through the deeper aspects of the self. And in one of their colossal works, the prophet explains that, quote, "Every man and every woman is a star. That is to say, every human being is intrinsically an independent individual with his own proper character and proper motion." The Internet. Esoteric books often highlight several drastic changes occurring after this prophecy. They include women having equal rights in most countries, the end of European monarchical rule, the diminished influence of organized religion, etc. However, I actually think they are missing the information age and the Internet. Personal brand. There are almost 7 billion people on this planet. Someday, I hope there will be almost 7 billion companies. Naval. Now, consider recent layoffs in tech, which up until now was, and perhaps to a select few still is the most optimal career path. Think of the uncertainty everyone has to face when forging their own path by delivering value based on who they are. Also consider the rise of polymaths teaching holistic skill sets and perspectives. Now, look at the tarot fortune card associated with the prophecy and our age, displaying perpetual change as the only sure thing. Think of how a personal brand evolves based on one's interests and development, and how that actually relates to the principles of expansion and growth. More on that in a moment. Aggregates. In my humble opinion, it doesn't take much to see that solopreneurs and creators are basically stars in Nuit's body, perfectly embodied by the internet. You're an aggregate of experiences, and the value you've accumulated is what you can offer to others. The prophet also introduced the notion of love under view, which is often explained as the interaction of the deeper aspects of the self with the deeper aspects of reality, or Nuit and Hadith having sex. One example is flow states, another is the mere act of sharing something valuable with like-minded individuals and thus forging links and connections, creating more aggregates of experiences and benefiting the collective. And if you think about it, doing the second actually requires the first when depth and meaning are goals. researching, writing, experiencing, structure and delivery, titles and animations, B-roll, cover grading, logos and branding. Apparently, all of them require focus and express who you are. On the internet, you can bring them to the eyes of those who will appreciate them, essentially sharing a piece of you. And according to a Kabbalistic wisdom, everything reflects everything. According to Electron 1970 Startup Journal, every interaction with oneself speaks of one's brand, whereas all interactions with one's brand talk about oneself. Let me know if you agree. Attention. According to Duke University's Carol Richards, quote, "Attention is a currency. We choose how to spend it, just like we spend our time, energy, and money. However, unlike money, there is no way to save attention for later." Unquote. Going back to the comment, the internet does to you what you do to yourself when using it. I wrote this script in Notion and Grammarly, while millions of others scrolled through memes. In the same way, in the early 2010s, I learned about old school bodybuilding, productivity, self-help, etc. This let me reshape my physique and mind, segueing into deeper topics like philosophy, psychology, and esotericism. Inspired by others, I've been sharing life lessons since 2014. Many others did the same, while some watched porn and perhaps food challenges. Ideas. Now, in Kabbalistic psychology, Braya or Bria represents the creative world of ideas, which is directly linked to the life force Kia. As woke is supported by Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, that is actually both within and outside of us. Considering this, the internet might be viewed as a place allowing us to interact at the level of Neshama, which is attributed to Braya and is also called superconsciousness and intuition. The further we move into the future, the more the internet will contain everything we do, allowing us to unite and interact despite our location, skin color, or upbringing. As they say, we move to digital society. Given that, I don't really think the internet is a mere egregore, but a vessel for the collective. It's you. To creators and self-improvers, the internet is a place to learn, improve, create, and benefit others, giving back to the community. It is where they document their journeys, build brands, and establish authority. Hence, YouTube channels are increasingly likened to startups. To others, the web is a mere entertainment. And what do you know? Both groups chase dopamine. For the first is the good dopamine, increasing when delaying gratification, moving from one meaningful event or experience to another, living a purposeful life, delivering value, etc. For the second is the cheap dopamine, coming from instant gratification like porn, memes, gossiping, trolling, etc. This is why in 2024 there's a clear distinction between content and value creators and influencers. The first group helps you improve by learning valuable skills or solving problems like financial problems or getting in shape, or by exploring alternate spirituality and helping yourself out of an excruciating panic disorder. I don't know about others, but to me content creation or value creation is profoundly spiritual. Besides transcending physical boundaries, one creates for their former self while being several steps ahead. It is a way to strengthen one's connection with themselves and the collective. Plus, the best way to learn something is to actually teach it. The journey begins in one way, yet it often shifts direction as such persons are usually polymaths, which also applies to this and my older channel. So feel free to let me know what you think about incorporating more topics like I did in my last videos. Influencing. Contrasting to all this, influencing is meant to rob you out of your time and attention, which are your most valuable assets, making you crave more short clips with zero substance. It basically drags you into the darkness, preventing you from really being the star you are meant to be. So the questions are these. 1. How do you actually spend your time on the internet? Is it mostly by learning and creating, or are you primarily consuming? Are you a creator, self-improver, problem solver, or a mere consumer? 3. What are the accounts that you follow? Are they delivering quality long-form content like videos, podcasts, and blogs, or do you watch TikToks, memes, and perhaps naked photos? Obviously, consumption is inevitable. However, it is crucial to prioritize creating and problem solving. So, swap much of your consumption for reading non-fiction books that will tell you more about the world today. Watch scientific and cultural documentaries if you're into culture, and develop side hobbies that will enrich you as a person, like for instance, I do with coding. Chaos. In their totality, our life experiences include substantial entropy, randomness, and even chaos, if you will. For instance, some happen to be born in the right place at the right time, others not that much, and third were actually raised in the ghetto or third world countries. According to folk psychology, this is not because nature hates some of us, but because it is indifferent. While I tend to agree, a more metaphysical explication is that Nuit provides constraints which are very often limitations and obstacles to overcome and explore new horizons. I also agree with that. Whatever the case, the internet gives many the freedom to have more of an equal footing. Consider how many great artists and entrepreneurs emerged from challenging backgrounds, making the most out of what they had, and how the internet actually helped them. English. While that's granted to some, learning English was a massive constraint that entirely transformed my life experience and the person I was. By learning, I don't really mean taking meaningless exams and certificates. I actually don't have any of these. I refer to using it for everything and anything, including ideas, notions, hunches, and especially dreams, training my subconscious to express itself through it. Now my thought quality and thus perception of the world is different, thanks to the internet where I mostly learn it. So I really feel it is the language of my soul or neshama, or at least the one it really wants me to use. Let me know if that resonates. Algorithms and randomness. As mentioned, my main reason for learning English was never getting grades or certificates, but actually sharing ideas with like-minded individuals across the globe. Yet, the fact remains that unlike YouTube, TikTok and partially Instagram actually push one's content only to the local area, essentially depriving one of the freedom provided by the internet. Now, I don't know about you, but to me this feels somewhat similar to when in some places people of color weren't allowed to go to certain parts of the city. Also to when now, in others, people are required to use VPN services to go on websites like Google, YouTube or Amazon. Hence why I'll likely never have a TikTok account. More on that in a moment. Kings. The prophecy also discusses metaphorical kings and slaves. Both women and men, the first take responsibility for their lives and forge their own paths. Each has its own orbit without interfering with the others. They're separate, yet also connected. According to some scholars, kings are often recognized by the output and the quality of their work. In contrast, slaves are mere consumers staying in the darkness. They accept whatever entropy throws at them, allowing randomness to shape their lives without connection to their core values. They do not take the initiative to find their life purpose, but instead let society assign them a random one. Often that is going to school, getting an education and working a dead-end 9 to 5 to make other people's dreams come true. On the other hand, a tech startup or a company of self-driven individuals sharing a purpose and beliefs is also an aggregate of stars in and of itself. The bottom line is that kings are stars, whereas slaves stay in the darkness. It is undeniable that the opportunities we have now are due to the internet. You are watching this video on the internet. Thanks to it, we all have better chance to develop and express our stellar nature, especially as we move to more decentralized society and web, which also matches the prophecy saying we will actually transition from a solar to a stellar tradition. And for those not knowing, solar is about submission, grouping, and viewing the divine as an external factor. Stellar is about individuation and detachment from cultural and societal dogmas. The divine is within each individual. Every man and every woman is a star. While without the internet all this wouldn't be possible, it just so happens some companies hold on to what we called all-the-own mentality, which the prophet also foresaw, warning us there will be clashing of paradigms, especially in the early stages. An ongoing process. Something worth meditating on is that self-help is also part of the transition, putting responsibility and power back into the hands of the individual for the past 100 years and perhaps preparing humanity in its own way. Especially when you consider that many of the greatest entrepreneurs, creators and artists are also into self-help. Let me know if you agree. Also, think of Peter J. Carroll viewing self-helpers and personal developers as the esotericists of the new age. Fasts. Lastly come the internet fasts. In my humble opinion, they are not necessary for those controlling their information that, and often plain impossible, to tech workers and creators. And this circles back to what you actually do and how you spend your time. The types and amounts of media you consume and when you consume them make all the difference. If it's too much of the bad stuff, it's not the internet, it is you making poor choices. Abstaining from platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram on the other hand can be beneficial to all. Disconnect. Having balance with your tech use is essential. With or without the internet, you should have time spent without tech. And this can include long contemplative walks, journaling, training outdoors, periods of microflow through cooking, cleaning, or ordering your space, driving, or whatever you enjoy. Apparently, there are good and bad options in the physical reality too. Examples could be books and playing chess, vs TV and newspapers. As far as for me, unlike cooking, which can be microflow, I personally prefer to order my food online. I can find good quality products for less while avoiding spending my precious time on the randomness of grocery shopping. But that's just my opinion. Let me know if you agree, check my products and links in the description, subscribe to my channels, and thank you for your time.